Hello, my name is Ceombo the DM, and I am here to come up with some audio for a video. Now, the fun thing about making audio for this video is that currently I'm planning on the video being about 24 minutes long, and you, my dear viewer, can see how long it's going to be by, looking at the video, but I don't. And the other fun thing about filming this, or I guess recording, is that I had a very bad asthma attack earlier today, so I am still winded, and for some reason I was like, you know what I should go do on my computer now that I've laid in bed and been sad because I couldn't breathe? I should go do something that heavily involves breathing. No one ever said I made good decisions with my life. But here we are. And so here is this video. It's a little different from my usual videos because I plan on doing more D&D related stuff, but I did this piece that you're seeing me work on right now as a commission, and I wanted to go ahead and use the Speedpaint because I knew that it would take me a while, and I was right. It took me about 8 hours to draw, and we're not going to count then the video editing and such. So, yeah. But I didn't want to speed things up too much because I've not really gotten the hang of holding a canvas still. I'm working on that because I think that makes the speed paints look a lot more palatable and I can speed things up a lot more. And I showed my grandpa a couple of my speed paints and he was not a fan, shall we say, of the spinning it. And so shout out to you, Grandpa. I'm making this one at a good rate for you because I love you, Grandpa. And I want to make you watch more of my videos. Because I know, yeah, my grandpa, you're totally into D&D. But here we are. So I had to think, what am I going to do for audio? And I was like, okay, here's an idea. I'll go ahead and write a story. Writing a story is fun. But then I was like, wow. How many pages does it take for a 24-minute story? How long? What? No, I don't know if I want to write that much. I didn't want to use one of the stories I already had because, well, that would involve me skimming through all of the stories I already had and finding one that would work because I don't think I have anything with that much material. Okay, that's a lie. I have one story, but I'm holding off on that one for a good while. I've got to do a lot of refining for it. It's also all out of order currently. But I still wanted to go ahead and do a story, but my second hurdle was that I want my videos to be accessible. And so I wanted it to be able to have subtitles, and the easiest way to do subtitles with YouTube is to upload a text file from your script. But in order to have a script, I would have to write a script, and I've noticed that I really stumble over my words when I'm trying to read something aloud. So what I'm gonna probably start doing for even multiple videos is I'm not gonna write down my script. I'm going to just have to free speak until I get, I guess, maybe more comfortable around the mic. Maybe that'll help. So right now I'm watching my beautiful script, my words that I am speaking that are coming out of my mouth get absolutely mutilated by Google Docs as a text-to-speech, or is it speech? It's speech-to-text, my bad. Anyway, now I've been dawdling for almost 4 minutes as my Audacity timer tells me, and it's time for me to go ahead and get along to the story. Now, the story, I'm going to go ahead and devote whatever the word is, I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and send this one out there to my nieces and my little sister instead of my usual players. Sorry guys, you can have fun with this story. In fact, most of you helped me come up with the story because what I did was I just sent a message out to my gang, my crew, my darlings, and I was like, yo, give me something, give me. So I asked for, character name and stuff like that. And that is how we have the disaster that I am about to just come up with while I am talking. I'm going to take a little pause because I need to catch my breath. Clara and the slugs and the beignets of happiness. There was something about slugs, just the way they would undulate as they moved, and the sheen from the mucus that covered their bodies, their fleshy antennae, and their strange wiggly tendencies. There was just something about them that, it got under Clara's skin. And heaven forbid a slug ever did get under her skin, because if that happened, she would likely just die. She'd simply perish. She was terrified, just completely terrified of slugs. They were her greatest weakness. Second greatest weakness would be her love of cheese. Now, why is cheese a weakness? Now, it's quite simple. You see, Clara was lactose intolerant, and not just a little lactose intolerant. No. Clara was the most lactose intolerant person you would meet that did not have a dairy allergy. But she still loved cheese just so much. And so Clara was currently on a quest to find something she liked more than cheese so that she could stop destroying herself. Luckily, Clara did have some wit about her, and she did only eat cheese sparingly, but still she needed to find something else to occupy herself with. And so Clara went for a walk one day. Now, going for a walk was quite dangerous in her town because, well, ever since the dragon zombies attacked, her medieval village hadn't been the same. Now, the medieval ages already weren't the best time to be alive, what with plagues and all sorts of other things, but when there were dragons and a zombie plague at the same time, and the two crossed over, well, it's safe to say that this was quite the dystopic fantasy. And Clara was right in the middle of it. However, as humans do, they had found a way to survive. They had found a way to go ahead and make do and not worry all that much about it. Any more than average. After all, currently nobody thought that you could catch the zombie plague from a dragon. Not that you would survive the dragon. But Clara went for a walk anyway, and she went through the bog. And she went through the bog for one specific reason of trying to face her fear of slugs. Because where else would you find more slugs than in a bog? That said, Clara, while facing her fears, still was very much afraid, so Clara was covered head to toe in all sorts of manner of clothing to keep slugs off and away from her, as well as carrying a large pitcher of salt. But Clara wandered and wandered, and she sat down upon a log, after, of course, checking underneath, around, inside, and above, and really anywhere nearby the log that there were no slugs present. And she sat, and she thought, where would you find something better than cheese? She'd already tried so many different foods, so many different things. What would she do? And that's when she heard a sound behind her. Splat! 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 Clara whirled around, terrified of the idea of a giant slug walking on two legs, because perhaps that was exactly what was coming towards her, but it was not. Instead, there was a strange, hunched-over man, and he looked at her quizzically, wondering what she was doing there, and he soon voiced that. "What are you doing here?" the strange man said. "Oh," said Clara. "Well, I'm on a walk, and I'm thinking about cheese. I really like cheese, but I am lactose intolerant. I'm trying to come up with something else to eat that I love so much, some other good treat other than cheese. And I've already tried so many different foods, and I can't figure out what to do. And I figured I might as well try to kill two birds with one stone. And right now I'm out here because I am absolutely terrified of slugs, and I figured the best way to start becoming less terrified of slugs is to have a little bit of exposure, and where else would there be slugs than in a swamp, which is why I'm really not entirely convinced that this is the best thing to do, but it's what Mother said to do, so I'm doing my best." Who are you?" Clara asked. Now, this man of the swamp looked at her, and he shrugged, and he said, "Well, I'm a swamp hermit. I live in the swamp because I don't like people. Get out of my swamp." And she looked at him and said, "Well, I'm not planning on getting out of the swamp for a good little while. I have to keep thinking. I have to come up with something other than cheese." And he looked at her and said, I see we're at an impasse. Let me think. And the hermit thought, and he thought, and he thought. And he wound up sitting upon the log nearby her. Of course, Clara had to look him over very carefully to make sure he was not bringing any slugs with him, but it did seem that he was slugless. So she did allow herself to relax somewhat. "I have an idea," said the man of the swamp. "You see, I have a favorite food myself." He pointed over to the west. And of course Clara looked, curious what was over to the west, and there she saw, well, more swamp. But the man continued to speak. "Over west, there is a large hill. If you go over the hill, cross a river, through the valley, you will find the best bakery the world has ever had, and their beignets. I assure you'll make any cheese you ever try again. It will taste like simple sand. You simply must try their beignets if you're trying to rid yourself of this problem." And Clara looked back at him. "So, you think I should try a beignet?" And the swamp man nodded and said, "Yes, but not just any beignet. You need the beignets of Benedict's Bakery." "Benedict's Bakery?" "Yes." "Well, all right then." So Clara stood up, dusted off her, well, it was something like a bee suit at this point, dusted herself off, and began to go west. She really did have to find a solution to this problem, and now she was on her search for the best bakery, which evidently was Benedict's. The swamp man smiled and went, "She'll kill two birds with one stone when she goes there," he mused to himself after Clara had walked away. "That place is surrounded by slugs." And then he went sprat, sprat, spratting back to his own place. Now, Clara wasn't entirely certain what she'd just gotten herself into, and so she went home first, because, well, it sounded like that was a rather long journey, and so she needed to get herself ready. So she would. Clara went home and got herself a packed lunch, with, of course, a sandwich, some crackers, and, well, she would have loved to bring some cheese, but no cheese. And she went ahead and got herself a good water bottle, and she went out for her walk. Now, Clara had to be careful, of course, because there were the dragon zombies on the loose. But luckily the dragon zombies only came out at night, so as long as Clara hid herself well before the night fell, she should be all right. Should be. So Clara walked, and walked, and walked. And then she realized she had been going east because she had confused which way the sun went each day. And so Clara had to turn back around, and she decided, I will actually just consider today a loss. And Clara went ahead and went home. Clara spent the night in her own bed, and the next day she decided to be a little more prepared. She brought herself a compass and a tent, along with a new packed lunch, and, well, a few more lunches than just one, actually. She thought that would probably be best. And so Clara went ahead, and she climbed up the hill to the west. And she walked and 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 walked, and oh goodness, her feet hurt. But as she looked up the sky, she saw it was still day. It was only noon, even. So she sat down and had herself a nice lunch. And Clara looked and watched the clouds go by, and she saw some rather pretty clouds. And it was a rather nice little sit. But then she saw something that was not a pretty cloud in the sky. It was big and dark, with large bat-like wings. It was a dragon. Now, as for if this was a regular dragon or a zombie dragon, she did not know, and she particularly did not care, because either way, it could spell her doom. So Clara quickly packed up her things and scampered underneath the cover of the trees, for if the dragon were to spot her, well, her lunch would be cut short by becoming its lunch. No, I guess her lunch was already cut short, but you understand. So she resumed her walk. And of course, Clara found herself a good spot to spend the night, the first night. The next day was much like the last. Clara went for her walk and continued on west, where she crossed the river just as the man from the bog had told her. But what concerned her was that every so often she would look to the sky and she could swear she saw that big dark shape with those big bat-like wings still following her. And she was afraid. But she had a quest. She had something to do. And so she continued onward. Now, on the third day that Clara was walking, she had to cross through the valley. At the far end of the valley, she believed, is where she would find Benedict's bakery. And luckily, it looked like there was nothing in the sky today. And that was such a relief to young Clara, for she was already dealing with enough things. She had already encountered about 3 slugs on her trip, and they were terrifying, you understand, terrifying for the poor thing. And she really couldn't deal with a dragon, zombie, or otherwise, as well. But she had just thought about, if she loved cheese so much, and this man of the bog told her that these beignets would make cheese taste like sand, then these beignets would be worth it. She couldn't wait. And so she continued walking. The valley was rather lovely, and she quite enjoyed walking through it. Clara thought to herself how lovely it was. It was filled with the sun, and slugs didn't like that, and so she did. And it was relatively dry, which slugs also did not like, which meant, again, she did. Granted, sometimes she had to hold her nose, as she could smell things that, well, zombie dragons didn't exactly smell pleasant. She had a feeling a few of them had been around here. But she continued onward. And Clara soon found herself standing by a bakery. And on the bakery, in large, golden, beautifully intricate letters, said Benedict's Bakery. And Clara was quite thrilled. And she was like, I finally made it to the bakery. Now, perhaps I'll be able to try those beignets, and, well, I will rid myself of my cheesy curse. But that's when she noticed it. There were these little things all around the bakery. And she realized that this part of the valley was not as dry as the others, and it was cast in shade. Remember what I just said? Slugs do not like the hot sun or the dry earth, but they do love darkness, and they do love something wet. And unfortunately for dear little Clara, the bakery was surrounded by those 2 things, and thus surrounded by slugs. But the cheese, the beignets, what was she to do? She looked, and it appeared that the path, at least, was clear of slugs, even though they dotted all the plants all about. And so if she's just staying on the path, then she would be all right. And so Clara took a deep breath and tried to swallow her fear down, and took 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 11. She just ran into the bakery and slammed the door behind her, and she went, oh my gosh, so many slugs! But it was clean inside. There were no slugs on the inside. Oh, that was a relief. And so she slowly gathered herself together. Oh, no more slugs, until she had to leave. So she dusted herself off again, and she stepped up towards the counter. And there was a young man standing at the counter, and he said, "Hello, welcome to Benedict's Bakery. How can I help you today?" And the young Clara said, "Hi, I've heard you have the best beignets, and I would like to try one. Well, that's not a problem at all, said the young man. That will cost 1 gold piece. And Clara realized she had a problem. She had forgotten to bring her money. How could she get a beignet? So she decided to try to persuade this young man to share a beignet with her. I didn't bring any money, and I live 3 days away. But it's really important that I try one of these beignets because, well, I love cheese. I really, really love cheese. It's my favorite food in the whole world, and it makes me really, really, really happy, but I am very lactose intolerant, and it's really bad for me to eat cheese. And so I've just been trying to find something better than cheese to find so that I could, eat something other than cheese when I really needed a treat. And I heard that you guys had the best beignets and that they would make cheese taste like sand. And so here I am. Is there any way you could let me borrow one? Or I guess I wouldn't be borrowing because I'd be eating it. But could I please, just one, please? And the young man thought about it. And he said, well, it is the zombie dragon apocalypse. So I guess I'll go ahead and let you have one. But only one. You'll have to pay for them in the future. Oh, thank you, said Clara. She could have hugged him. And the young man went ahead and gave her a beignet, and she tried it, and just as the old bog man had said, it was delicious. And it really did help her out. And then she looked at the door. I'm terrified of slugs. And now I have to get home. And there's all slugs. There's so many slugs outside. And the young man kind of chuckled and he said, well, I think I can help you out with that too. How would you like to fly home? I think that would be a fair bit faster than trying to walk all that way again. And Clara looked at him and she said, what do you mean fly home? And the young man laughed again. He said, well, one good way to not get turned into a zombie dragon is to not appear as a dragon. The young man went ahead and waved his hands in the air and performed a few simple magic tricks, which Clara recognized that only dragons could do, for only dragons had magic. You're a dragon, she said, as if it was not stating the obvious. Yes, said the young man. In fact, I've actually seen you a couple times on my way back to my bakery. That's why I trusted you. I've had lots of people try to get my beignets for free, but, well, I could tell you actually had been walking for 3 days because I saw you 3 days ago walking here. I will give you a ride home. How does that sound? That would be great, she said. That would be really, really great. So, yeah. That is the story of Clara, the slugs, and the beignets. I hope you enjoyed. I had a bit of fun coming up with it. I think that I did pretty decent for just coming up with a quick little story on the spot. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, go ahead and please leave a like, share, and subscribe, comment, tell me about it. You guys know. That's how the YouTube algorithm works. Anyway, thank you for watching if you watched all the way through. Don't really know why you would do that, but thank you so much if you did, and I hope that you have a marvelous day.